Fire in the Belly on Being a Man by Sam Keen. In this book, Sam Keen tries to find a new route towards authentic manhood, and he contrasts the often contradictory view modern society has on what it means to be a man and masculinity with more traditional cultures like tribes and basically everything before the modern times. It tries to answer questions like, what is the impact on our maturation process when we no longer have initiation rites? Why are we so depressed in current modern jobs and workplaces? How do we recover our true self in a financial world where so many of us have adopted a market orientation toward ourselves, to borrow a term from Eric Fromm? This book tries to challenge an outdated view on what it means to be a man, a view that had left men impoverished and alienated, and replaced it with something that brings purpose and fulfillment to life. And I wanted to share 3 key ideas that I got from this book. So what I find really fascinating is when the author goes in and contrasts and compares modern society and more traditional ways of living, and especially when it comes to initiation rites. And there's good news and bad news when it comes to this. The good news with traditional ways of living was that people, they know who they were, they knew their roles. And the bad news is that there was really no space for developing as an individual. Traditionally, you were a child and then you were a man or a woman, right? There was nothing in between. Adolescence is more of a modern invention. I haven't thought about it as having this period between being a child and an adult where you're allowed to explore. It's really something quite new. If I could rank key events that triggered spiritual growth for me, then number 1 would be being close to burnout. And quote, "On the path to authentic selfhood, we must remain for a time in the dark side of the soul until we reach the very bottom of despair." And this despair that he talks about, this is what philosophers and pilgrims and theologians have talked about as being crucified, losing one's ego, descending into hell or battle with dragons. But now we call it by more clinical names like depression, stress, burnout, etc. And we invented also, of course, a whole line of professions around this area. We have therapists, psychologists, all of that. And what his point is that these tricks like stress management, mindfulness, not all mindfulness, but you know what I mean, like the corporate mindfulness, it actually prolongs us from reaching the point of total despair and darkness that will trigger growth, big growth within us. The third thing that I wanted to share that this book touches on is how companies these days try to become the new family for us, the new hearth. And I can really relate to this because I work in the tech industry myself, where pampering is going on all the time. There's bean bags everywhere, there's office dogs, there's kick bikes for traveling the corridors. There's a lot of things going on, right? And they want to present themselves like companies. They want to present themselves as your family, and we even invent our own myth around it and our own mythology and rights within the companies. But it's not the same as a family. And we will notice when a company that has gone well for a while hits a rut, you will notice that under those velvet gloves is the iron fist. And I think I know what Sam means by that, because I've seen this happening myself. Like when things hit the fan, it's the bottom line that counts. And it's easy to forget that when it's so well hidden these days. It's a short and sweet read. It's only 230 pages or so. But it feels a little bit dated. It was written in 1991, and it feels like the time of it's the cost of the toys that separate the men from the boys has kind of passed now, even though the alienation among men is still here. in some aspects, right? And I would like to read more about this topic. What I really like about this is it goes through the hero's journey. It highlights has some really interesting and thought-provoking points. But all in all, it's an okay book. And if masculinity and being a man is not on the top priority, then you could probably skip this one. I would recommend instead, if you only could read one book, it's King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, Rediscovering the Archetypes of the Mature Masculine by Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette. This book is fantastic. It's Jungian psychology of the male psyche, basically. So check that one out. Cool, I'm back next week with more reviews. I have a lot of books that I'm reading right now that I'm going to review soon, so stay tuned. So we have Lives of the Stoics, we have Joseph Campbell, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, Learn, Improve, Master by Nick Villa. Yes, I can't pronounce it. A World Without Email by Cal Newport. A lot of things going on. So hit the subscribe button, like, all of that stuff. It helps me reach more people with great books. Together we learn about human nature, human potential, and psychology. Björn out. But I also seen when shit hits the fan, then it's the bottom line that's counts.